Imagine waking up at 5:47 a.m. The light hasn't yet touched the windows. The world outside is silent, the kind of stillness that feels like the pause between two deep breaths. You're awake, but not fully. Your body feels heavy, not from pain, but from something more subtle, a kind of slowness that doesn't have a name. You stare at the ceiling. You shift a little, waiting to feel. Something, a spark, a stiffness, a surge of readiness. Once, you didn't have to think about it. It was just there, a part of being a man, a rhythm you could count on. But now the mornings come without ceremony. Without that rising sense of presence, without the small signs that your body is unalive, assertive, available. And here's the truth almost no one says out loud, that quiet. It scares people. Not in a dramatic way, not like a health crisis or a sudden injury, but in the quiet way of aging, that invisible erosion of identity. You're still you, still smart, still standing. But something essential has gone quiet, and you're not sure how or if it can come back. Let me tell you about Charles. He's 68, retired from a long, proud career in structural engineering. The kind of man who still sharpens his own tools, still triple checks the level on the bookshelf, still keeps his boots polished even if he's not going anywhere. His mind is strong, his hands are steady, but when he came to me, he looked foggy. Not lost, not sick, just not fully there, he said. "Doc, I'm not sleeping like I used to. But it's more than that. I wake up tired. I go to bed tired. It's like something's switched off." I asked him a few questions. He waved them off at first. No, I'm not depressed. No pain, no stress, nothing major going on. But then I asked something else. "How are your mornings?" And that's when he hesitated. He looked down. Then he said it, soft and almost ashamed. "I don't wake up like a man anymore." That sentence broke my heart, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so common. He wasn't talking about ego or sex even. He was talking about identity, about that quiet but powerful sense of internal fire, the one that gives a man his momentum, his pride, his direction. For years, I've worked with men like Charles, and I've come to understand something simple but profound. Your body is not trying to betray you. It's trying to communicate with you. When you lose morning energy, when testosterone dips, when circulation slows, when sleep becomes shallow and unrestful, it's not your body saying you're done, it's your body asking, "Will you listen?" Because vitality doesn't vanish. It withdraws, waiting for the right conditions to return, and that's where our journey begins. Not with a pill, not with a workout, not even with a lecture, but with a teaspoon, one spoonful, taken before bed, can begin to shift the entire internal landscape of a man over 60. And I'm not speaking metaphorically. There's a natural, evidence-backed combination used in various cultures for centuries, studied in modern labs for its hormonal and circulatory effects. Something so gentle you can't believe it works. But it does. I've seen it restore morning erections in men who had gone years without one. I've seen it help normalize testosterone in those who thought their only option was injections. And perhaps most powerfully, I've seen it help men sleep deeply, restoratively, without interruption. But before we talk about what it is, I want to sit with what it represents, because what you're going through if you're over 60 and waking up tired, disconnected, or less than yourself is not shameful. It's not the end, it's the beginning of a new kind of conversation with your body, and your body, even now, has the capacity to surprise you. Charles tried that spoonful. Not because he was convinced, but because he was exhausted of feeling half alive. I told him, don't expect fireworks. Expect a whisper, a return. 3 weeks later, he called me. "Doc," he said, "I didn't even notice it happening at first. But this morning, I woke up early and I felt it. That hum, that charge. I was just lying there, smiling like a fool." He laughed, and I heard something else in his voice, something deeper than humor. It was relief and maybe pride. That's what this podcast is about. Not hacks, not hype, but hope. If you've been feeling soft, tired, or alone in a body that no longer feels like yours, this is not your fault. And it is not permanent. You are not broken. You are rebuildable. And in the next part of our journey, I'll take you deeper into the science of that spoonful, into the ingredients that restore not just testosterone, but confidence. Not just blood flow, but connection. I'll share the first of those ingredients. And I'll tell you why, in men over 60, it can be more powerful than any pill and safer than most. But for now, just sit with this. Your story is not over. And the spark you miss, it misses you too. Let me take you back for a moment. It was late autumn when Charles returned to my office. Same sweater, same steady hands, but something in his eyes had changed. A kind of brightness, not loud or dramatic, but quietly certain, like a man who had remembered his name. "It's working," he said. "What's working?" I asked him, and he smiled. "That spoon." I smiled too. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. Let's talk about what's actually in that spoonful. It's not magic. It's not a secret formula hidden in some distant jungle. It's a blend of 3 ingredients, all natural, all backed by science, and all carefully chosen for one reason: to help a man's body remember how to feel like itself again. The first ingredient is pomegranate concentrate. You've seen it. Bright red, tart, sometimes poured over salad, but behind that sharp flavor lies something far more powerful, a compound called punicalagin. It's a natural antioxidant that supports blood vessel flexibility and increases nitric oxide production, the very molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax and open. Why does that matter? Because nitric oxide is what allows blood to flow freely. And without blood flow, there's no energy. No erection, no deep sleep, no morning readiness. It's all connected. In men over 60, nitric oxide production often falls sharply. It's one of the reasons morning erections disappear even in otherwise healthy men. Pomegranate doesn't just support nitric oxide, it supercharges it. And over time, it gently restores what aging tries to steal, but blood flow alone isn't the whole picture. So the second ingredient is Mucuna pruriens, a natural bean extract used in Ayurvedic medicine for centuries. Now, I know the name sounds strange, but what it does is beautifully simple. Mucuna is one of the richest natural sources of L-dopa, a precursor to dopamine. And dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical. It's motivation, focus, desire, confidence. When dopamine is low, men often feel apathetic, flat, disconnected. Not sad, just dimmed. Mucuna helps restore that fire, not through a spike, but through a soft, consistent elevation in mood, interest, and mental clarity. Over time, men report something remarkable. They want to connect again. They feel alert. They remember what drive felt like, and that brings us to the third and often most overlooked ingredient, Montmorency Tart cherry extract. This isn't just any cherry. It's the deep red kind, almost sour to the taste, loaded with natural melatonin. Here's what most people don't know. After 60, your body makes far less melatonin than it used to. That's why sleep becomes fragmented. You fall asleep, then wake up at 2:17 a.m., eyes wide, thoughts racing. Without restorative sleep, your testosterone dips further, your heart doesn't repair. Your mind stays foggy, and your mornings feel like unfinished business. Montmorency cherry delivers melatonin in a natural, time-release form. It helps you fall asleep and stay asleep, not knocked out, restored. Which is exactly what your hormones need to rebalance. Now, imagine what happens when you combine these 3: pomegranate to open the vessels and increase blood flow, mucuna to reawaken motivation and natural dopamine, tart cherry to deepen sleep and support hormonal reset. My friend, is the spoon. It's not a miracle. It's not a cure-all. But it's a quiet ritual and nighttime decision that tells your body, I remember you. I trust you. Let's come back to life together. Charles wasn't alone. I've seen this blend help dozens of men, each with his own story, his own version of fading and return. There was Miguel, 72, who used to fall asleep in his recliner mid-sentence. After 6 weeks on the spoon, he started walking his dog again at sunrise. I just wanted to see the light come in. He told me. There was Nathan, 65, a widower who hadn't felt desire in years. After a month, he told me, I looked at someone and felt something, not lust, just possibility. That's what this is really about. Possibility. Reclaiming the idea that your best mornings aren't behind you, that your body isn't your enemy. That one small action, taken consistently, can reopen doors you thought were closed forever. And here's the beauty of it: you don't need a new gym membership. You don't need testosterone injections or pharmaceuticals. You don't even need to tell anyone you're trying. You just need to begin. Tonight. 1 spoon. A quiet decision that sets the stage for everything that follows. In part 3, we'll dive deeper into testosterone itself, what it does, why it matters, and how you can support it naturally. Not just with supplements, but with rhythms, light, food, and yes, even pleasure, because testosterone isn't just about sex. It's about identity. And if you felt you're slipping, there's a path back. Let's talk about something that makes many men uncomfortable. Not because it's shameful, but because it's vulnerable. Testosterone. For years, we've treated it like a performance stat. A number to boost, a badge of masculinity. Something you either have enough of, or don't, but that's a narrow view. Testosterone isn't just about libido. It's not just about erections or muscles. It's a signal, a whisper from deep inside your body, telling you how vital you feel, how present you are, how connected you remain to your own sense of aliveness. Let me tell you about Jordan. He's 66, a former math teacher, calm, intelligent, gentle. He came to see me not for intimacy issues, but for fatigue. I just feel dulled, he said. Like the colors drained from everything, no panic, no crisis. Just a quiet withdrawal from life. He still went for walks, still ate his oatmeal, still checked the locks before bed, but he no longer reached for his wife's hand. He no longer felt urgency, or appetite, or desire, not just sexual, but emotional. We ran his labs. His testosterone was low, very low. But that wasn't the most important finding. It was what he said after. I didn't think I missed desire, until I realized how empty it feels to live without it. That, to me, is what testosterone truly represents, not just sex or strength, but spark, the spark to say yes, to make plans, to rise early, to flirt, to move with purpose, to feel alive in your own skin. And here's the truth: after 60, testosterone declines naturally. That's expected, but for many men, the decline is steeper than it should be because of stress, poor sleep, blood sugar imbalances, lack of sunlight, or simply years of not listening to the body's needs. And here's what makes it worse: most men don't talk about it. They don't ask for labs. They don't know what normal even means. They just assume, I'm getting older, and they slowly let go of the parts of themselves that used to shine. But I want to say this clearly: low testosterone is not your destiny. There are ways, gentle, natural, sustainable ways to help your body remember how to produce it, not through artificial injections, though those have a place in some cases, but through restoring the conditions your body needs to do what it already knows how to do. Here are 4 of those conditions. 1. Deep, uninterrupted sleep. Testosterone is produced primarily at night during the deep stages of sleep, when your body is fully at rest. If your sleep is shallow or fragmented, your testosterone production suffers. That's why the Tart cherry extract in our evening spoon matters so much. It doesn't sedate. It restores. 2. Blood sugar stability. Spikes and crashes in blood sugar disrupt hormone balance. Eating balanced meals, especially in the evening, can help protect your testosterone levels. That means protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Not just a glass of wine and crackers before bed. 3. Morning light. Your body's hormonal rhythm is sensed to light. Early exposure to natural sunlight, just 10 to 15 minutes, helps regulate your circadian clock and signals your brain to begin testosterone production. Think of it as morning medicine you don't have to swallow. For physical affection and touch. Oxytocin, the connection hormone, rises with touch. It lowers cortisol, and when cortisol drops, testosterone has more room to rise. In other words, a hug, a shared laugh, a quiet moment of hand-holding. These are not trivial. They are chemical gifts. Back to Jordan. He didn't want injections. He wasn't ready for radical change, but he was ready to listen. He started with the evening spoon. He made a point of getting sunlight every morning, sometimes just sitting on the porch with tea. He added a brisk 20-minute walk after dinner, and most importantly, he and his wife made a pact every day. They would touch intentionally. A hand on the back, a kiss on the shoulder, a moment of physical presence. After 6 weeks, his labs improved. But what mattered more was this. "I don't feel like I'm waiting to die anymore," he said. "I feel like I'm back in the story. That's what testosterone really does. It keeps you in the story. It sharpens your edges, deepens your voice, strengthens your decisions. It doesn't make you young, it makes you present, and when you combine the right nutrition, the right rhythms, and the right kind of intimacy, your body responds, not because it's being forced, but because it's being remembered. And part 4, we'll step deeper into sleep because all healing, all hormonal restoration begins there. I'll tell you the story of Alan, who went from 3 hours a night to 8, and why that change didn't just help his health, but saved his marriage. See you then. Alan was 71 when his wife left the bedroom, not because of infidelity. Not because of conflict, because of snoring. "I couldn't sleep," she told him. "And you weren't sleeping either." Alan came to see me the next week. He looked embarrassed. "But not for the reason you might think. I've been tired for so long, I forgot what rested feels like," he said. "But it's not just the fatigue. I feel like a ghost of myself." That word ghost stuck with me because I've seen what chronic sleep loss does to men. It doesn't just make them tired. It makes them fade. They lose interest, they forget things, they stop initiating. Their bodies soften, their emotions flatten, and somewhere along the way, they quietly vanish from their own lives. But here's what few men realize: sleep is not passive. It's not the absence of activity. It's the most active repair process your body engages in. Especially after 60, when you sleep deeply, your brain detoxifies, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure normalizes, your testosterone resets, your memory consolidates, your mood stabilizes. In short, your body heals. But when sleep is shallow, interrupted by bathroom trips, apnea, stress, or even screens, it can't do its job, and night after night, the body begins to break down. Alan's story was typical. 3 hours of light sleep, up twice to pee. Snoring so loud it rattled the windows. Always tired. Always irritable. He'd tried sleep aids, but they left him groggy. He'd tried cutting caffeine, but nothing changed. He thought it was just aging, but aging isn't the problem. Disruption is. So we started where I often start, with rhythm. I told Alan, your body is like an orchestra. Every hormone, every signal, every function, it plays in time. But if your conductor, your circadian clock, is off, the music is just noise. We began with 3 simple changes. 1. The spoon before bed. More NC cherry extract with its natural melatonin helped Alan fall asleep without the hangover. But more importantly, it helped him stay asleep so his body could enter deep, restorative cycles. It was the first time in years he slept 6 hours straight. 2. No screens after 9 p.m. Blue light suppresses melatonin. Alan didn't realize that checking email before bed was like shining daylight into his brain. We swapped the screen for a book. Within a week, his body began to feel tired naturally, not from exhaustion, but readiness. 3. Magnesium soak. One of the simplest interventions. A warm bath with magnesium flakes 30 minutes before bed. It relaxed his muscles, calmed his nervous system, and became a cue. It's time to let go. Within 2 weeks, Alan wasn't just sleeping. He was dreaming, and something else happened. His blood pressure dropped, his mood lifted, he started remembering things, jokes, dates, details. And one night, his wife moved back into bed. She told me later he doesn't snore anymore. But more than that, he's there again, like the man I married came home. That's what sleep does. It doesn't just restore your health. It restores your presence, and here's a truth that every man over 60 needs to hear. If your sleep isn't right, nothing else will be. Not your hormones, not your libido, not your energy, not your mind. Sleep is where your body decides what kind of man you'll be tomorrow, and yet we treat it like an afterthought. We push past it. We medicate it. We ignore its messages, but those 7 to 8 hours at night, they're the most powerful therapy you'll ever receive. No prescription. No appointment, just the body doing what it was designed to do if you let it. So if you're waking up groggy, if you feel like a ghost, if your thoughts are slow and your heart feels far away, start here. Reclaim your night, because it's not just about rest. It's about returning. In part 5, we'll talk about connection. Physical, emotional, relational, because the truth is, no amount of testosterone or sleep will matter if you're still living in isolation. And I'll tell you about Roger, who rebuilt his body, then realized what he missed most was being touched. Roger was 69 when he realized he hadn't been held in almost 2 years, not hugged, not kissed. Not touched with tenderness. He had started taking better care of himself, walking daily, eating real food, even using the nightly spoon. His energy was back. His mornings were clearer. His sleep was deeper. But still, something was missing. I feel strong again, he told me. But sometimes I go whole weeks without anyone laying a hand on me. Not even a pat on the back. He paused. I didn't think I'd miss it this much. Touch. It's one of the first things we crave as infants and, quietly, one of the last things we lose as men, not because we don't want it, but because somewhere along the way we were taught to stop asking for it. Our culture teaches men to be self-contained, tough, independent. And as we age, especially if we've lost a spouse or live alone or feel awkward about our changing bodies, we shrink back, we fold our arms, we keep our hands to ourselves, and the result? A kind of invisible starvation, because here's what the science and the soul tell us. Touch is not optional. It's essential. It lowers cortisol, boosts oxytocin, regulates blood pressure, reduces inflammation, increases trust, enhances immune function, and most importantly, it reminds us we're still human. Still worthy of closeness, still alive to tenderness. For Roger, that realization came one afternoon when his granddaughter, only 6 years old, curled up beside him during a movie. She just leaned on me, he said. Didn't say anything, just rested her head on my arm. He paused and his eyes watered. It felt like someone plugged me back in. That night, he cried, not from sadness but from reconnection, because you can lift weights. You can balance your hormones, you can sleep 8 hours and eat all the right food, but without connection, the body knows something's still missing. And here's the deeper truth I've seen over and over again in my practice. Physical intimacy starts long before the bedroom. It begins with presence. With shared meals. With honest words, with a hand on a shoulder, a brush of fingers, a held gaze. You don't need a partner to feel this. Though, of course, if you have one, reaching out again is a sacred act. But even if you live alone, there are still ways to reclaim touch. A massage, not for pain, but for presence. A handshake held a second longer. Volunteering in ways that involve closeness, mentorship, caregiving, teaching. Joining community spaces where physical affection is welcomed, like senior yoga or dance classes. And if you do have a partner, listen closely. Most men over 60 think their lack of intimacy is due to their own failures. But often, what partners are longing for isn't performance. It's presence, a warm embrace without expectation, a slow conversation without screens, a willingness to sit in silence, just being near. That's the soil where trust grows again, and trust, that's the doorway to intimacy. I remember when Roger met someone new. It was quiet, slow, tender. He didn't push for romance. He didn't try to prove himself. He just listened, reached for her hand, sat beside her without rushing. And one evening, months in, she said something that made him weep. I don't need you to be young. I need you to be with me. That's the medicine we've forgotten. That touch, real touch, has nothing to do with perfection and everything to do with attention. So if you're listening to this and thinking, but I'm alone, but I've let too much time pass, let me tell you what I told Roger. It's never too late to be touched. Never too late to touch someone else's heart with your presence, because the body remembers, and the soul responds, and the spark of connection, that's where healing begins. In part 6, we'll talk about what happens when you feel desire again. But don't trust your body to respond. The fear of failure can be paralyzing. But I'll show you how to rebuild confidence, not through pressure, but through preparation. There's a moment that happens to many men after 60, but few ever speak it out loud. You feel a spark again. Maybe it's after months of dullness, maybe years. A glance, a laugh, a closeness. Something stirs in your chest and in your body. Desire returns. But with it fear. What if my body doesn't respond? What if I try and fail? What if I disappoint her? What if I disappoint myself? This fear is not imagined, it's real. I've seen it stop even the strongest men from taking another step forward. Let me tell you about Raymond. He was 73, widowed for 8 years. No history of heart problems, still walked a few miles each morning. Sharp mind, dry humor, a quiet gentleness that made people feel safe around him. He'd met someone unexpectedly, a friend of a friend, a woman who had also known grief. They shared stories, sat beside each other at concerts, grew closer. One night, she took his hand. That's when it started. The fear. Raymond came into my office a week later, pale, restless. I want to, he said. God, I want to, but what if I can't? He hadn't been with anyone in almost a decade. He'd read the statistics, knew what age could do. He was afraid to begin, afraid to raise expectations he wasn't sure he could meet. And here's what I told him. Desire isn't a performance. It's a return, and the body, like any relationship that's been quiet for a while, needs time to rebuild trust. Think of it like this. If you ignored a friend for 10 years, would you expect them to show up with open arms the moment you called? Of course not. You'd reconnect slowly, gently, with curiosity, and that's exactly how you rebuild intimacy with your own body. There are 3 truths I share with every man who's afraid to try again. 1. Your body isn't broken, it's cautious. It hasn't been touched, seen, or heard in that way for a while. Maybe you've been rushing it, numbing it, or shaming it. Of course it's unsure. But with kindness and preparation, it will remember. 2. Erection is not the goal, presence is. An intimate moment is not judged by hardness. It's judged by attention, slowness, breath, listening. When performance anxiety drops, connection rises. And in that connection, your body often surprises you. 3. Preparation is wisdom, not weakness. In our youth, arousal was instant, reflexive, but after 60, intimacy becomes an intentional act. And that's not a failure, that's an evolution. Warmth, relaxation, blood flow, emotional safety, all these take time. And time is a gift we finally have. Raymond listened. He took a breath. So we made a plan. He continued with his nighttime spoon supporting blood flow, dopamine, and rest. He started pelvic floor exercises, simple, discreet, proven to improve erectile function. He talked to his new partner, honestly, gently. I want to be close, he told her. But I'm a little scared, and she smiled. Me too. Their first night together wasn't a scene from a movie, but it was real. Slow, tender, full of laughter, full of rediscovery, and something happened that he didn't expect. His body responded not with force, but with warmth, with steady, growing presence, no pills, no panic. Just the soft return of trust. Weeks later, he came back to see me. "I'm not 20 again," he said, "but I don't want to be. I'm here. I'm in my body again. That's enough. And you know what? It is. That's what we're reclaiming here, not youth, not fantasies, but belonging. To ourselves, to the moment, to the quiet joy of being enough, exactly as we are. In part 7, we'll talk about something that quietly erodes that sense of belonging, especially for men: shame. Not loud shame, but the quiet kind that says you're not a real man anymore. We'll explore how to recognize it, release it, and rebuild your identity from the inside out. You won't want to miss it. There's a quiet voice that lives in many men over 60. It doesn't yell. It doesn't weep. It just whispers. Maybe I don't matter the way I used to. Maybe I've lost something I can't get back. Maybe I'm no longer a man. This voice isn't born overnight. It builds silently from little things: the glance you notice she doesn't give you anymore, the button you struggle to fasten, the nights you lie awake while the world moves on, the mornings you wake up and the mirror seems to show someone distant. This is shame, not the loud kind, but the slow erosion of self that happens when a man no longer feels useful, visible, wanted. And I want to say this to you now, as clearly as I can: you're still a man, not because of how your body performs, not because of a hormone level or an erection or the speed of your step. You are a man because you've endured, because you've loved and lost and kept showing up, because you've made mistakes and grown from them, because your heart still beats with care, because your wisdom, your presence, your touch still hold power. You are not expired. You're evolving. Let me tell you about Harold. He was 76 when he told me he'd stopped dating, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't feel he had anything to offer. "I'm not strong like I was," he said. "Not quick, not impressive. Who would want me now?" I asked him a question. "Who was the person you loved most in your life?" He paused. "My wife. God. She was my best friend." I smiled. "When did you love her most? When she was young and flawless? Or later, when you knew her deeply?" His eyes filled. He didn't need to answer. We all know the truth. What makes us beautiful at any age is not our sharpness, it's our softness, our steadiness, our willingness to stay open. Harold didn't need to be impressive. He needed to be seen. So he started small. He went on a walk with a neighbor, listened more. Then he spoke, shared a story about his wife, made someone laugh. He didn't try to prove anything. He just showed up, and slowly, so did others. He joined a local book group, volunteered at a school, had dinner with a woman he once thought was out of his league, and one evening, months later, he came to see me again. He looked at me with that quiet smile men wear when they've come back to themselves. "She touched my face," he said, "and I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I let her see me." That's the moment shame dies. Not with a victory, but with a surrender to truth, the truth that you are still here, still needed, still worthy of warmth, desire, laughter, and love. This entire podcast series has been one long invitation to stop vanishing and start returning. To return to your body, to your strength, to your sleep, your spark, your touch, to your mornings, to your masculinity, not the noisy version, but the rooted one. You are not broken. You are rebuildable, and I hope this series reminded you of that. If it has, if something here spoke to you, please do me one favor, click like on this episode, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, even just one word, present, so I know you're still here, so others know they're not alone, because the more we speak, the less we hide, and the less we hide, the more we heal. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for trusting your heart with mine. With deep respect, Dr. James Warren's Senior Health Podcast. Your body remembers. Your spirit remains in the best days. They don't live in the past, they live in the choices you make today.